As a little girl, I wanted to know who God was, and I would go to Sunday school, and I just loved to sing about Jesus. But back then, I didn't know the heart of the Father. I sought out kids in school that went to church so I could still go. At the age of 16, I was violated by a classmate. After that happened, I kind of turned my back on God, and I didn't understand why He would allow something like that to happen. I picked up marijuana first, and then I turned to drinking. My drinking escalated from a couple of beers to coffee brandy, and then I added cocaine. And I was on a downward spiral for, from the age of 16 to about 30 when I got sober. That lifestyle took me to a lot of places. I married a man that was addicted like I was. We had 2 children together. He was very abusive and mean. He used to beat me on a pretty regular basis. When I got into AA, it started to bring me back to the idea of God, because the 12 steps talk about God in all of them. So I started praying again. God started pulling on my heart. Part of my story is that I put down the drugs and alcohol, but I picked up other addictions, and some of that was men or relationships. Something not to feel, not to have to deal with my insides, because I had so much pain, didn't know how to handle it. I was 7 years sober, divorced, 2 children. Met this guy at the halls. We watched a movie together. I moved him in. We got married in 3 months. 11 months later, my daughter was murdered. She was murdered by that man, her stepdad. He came home from work and said he had a bad day at work and wanted to go see his sponsor, and took our only car. Didn't come home all night. And I saw on the news where our ex-landlady, that house had burnt down and she died in it. And I thought, oh, that crazy lady, she was senile, so she must have left something on the stove again, it was my thought. Well, then my kid's father called and said, is Kristen at your house? And I said, no, why would she be? And he told me that she left with my husband at 11 o'clock the night before and hadn't come back. And so it was like 4 days before we found out the truth and how he had murdered her. He had murdered the landlady. He had burnt her up in the house. He had left my daughter in a shallow grave in a Catholic cemetery. It was a horrendous, horrendous story. So much so that the dentist had to identify her. And I remember I sat on the floor with her pictures, and I just cried out and I said, God, I don't know how to do this. You know, I just don't know how to do this. You know, you have to show me. You have to show me, Lord. And what happened was he started to download to me the ugly of really my insides and who I wasn't, and who, you know, about who I was too, and who he wanted me to become. He showed me that, you know, I put down drugs and alcohol, but I hadn't dealt with the hurts and the traumas and the pains, and that my part in that, you know, was those things that I chose not to deal with. Then he talked to me about forgiveness. To forgive a man that murdered your daughter, you know, it sounded like impossible to me. But he has given me an ability to forgive. I went to the prison, I looked him in the eyes, I said, I forgive you. I hope that you use your story to help others. He has now been baptized, I heard 5 years ago, and he is bringing people into the chapel for church. What God's been showing me is that he takes not just the forgiveness that unlocks the prison of my heart, but it also unlocks something in the spirit and allows that other person freedom to become. When I first started going to the church where I met Michael, I had found out that I had contracted hepatitis C when I was out intravenously using cocaine with my brother. A deliverance minister came through that church. He called out hepatitis and liver disease, and I went up front and they prayed and the pain went away. And when I went back to the doctors to have it tested again, they had no recollection of any of my enzymes being raised or anything. It wasn't even showing anymore in my blood. So it was a miracle. That was a turning point for me. That, I think, is when my heart started opening more to who God said I was instead of who I thought I was. He actually told me I was his beloved, and I started pursuing him more. My husband, Michael, we've been married 12 years. We both are part of CR, we're leadership in CR, and we believe that God is using the CR program to fulfill this vision of healing the downtrodden. Mothers and fathers, we have a heart to be mothers and fathers, and you know, God is so gracious that not having a daughter, but he's given me so many daughters in CR. Puts a smile on my face. You know, some of them call us Mama and Papa. It's really a blessing. Yeah, so God's been really good to me. Even though we've made mistakes, there's been many things that have gone on over years, and God keeps bringing me back, you know, and I know it's that narrow road. I think that just being obedient to the Lord and always coming back to your knees and seeing him for who he is and how much he loves you is what's important. My name's Joy Kipp, and I'm walking in victory.